Welcome to Our Ventura TV. I'm Bart Stern. We're joined today by a very important man to our community, Ventura County District Attorney Greg Totten. DA Totten, thanks so much for spending time with us today.
Pleasure to be here with you, Bart.
Now, most people in the community know of the District Attorney's Office and its function in the courtroom, but wondering if you could share a little bit about the scope of the duties of your office and
Sure.
a little bit more than just that limited info.
I think a lot of people identify district attorneys based upon what they've seen on TV, and
Right.
Unfortunately, sometimes there's a perception that we're just, prosecutors are all about convicting people and sending them to prison, and in truth, our role is much different than that. As was articulated many generations ago, the role of a prosecutor is that neither guilt shall escape nor innocence suffer. And really what that speaks to is the two primary duties that we have. First, I am a law enforcement official, and prosecutors are law enforcement officials, and we have a very serious responsibility in discharging our duties to protect public safety. But secondly, and every bit as important as that law enforcement responsibility, we are administrators of justice. And we have a solemn responsibility, unlike any other practitioner of law. We have a solemn responsibility to do justice in every single decision we make, in every single action we take, and in every single case we prosecute. So unlike most lawyers who have a responsibility to do whatever their client wants them to do, regardless of how they may personally feel about it, a prosecutor has a responsibility only to pursue charges against those people that he or she truly believes are guilty, where he believes he has evidence that's sufficient to convict in a court of law, and then prosecute that case in a way that is fair, impartial, and just.
So that's a complicated and important role to represent both sides and make sure there's balance.
Correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about the size of your office in terms of number of lawyers and staff, just to provide a better idea?
Ventura County, as most people are aware, we have a county population of about 840,000. We are the 11th largest county in the state, and the district attorney's office in Ventura County employs 264 people. We have a budget of about $44 million. And each year we file an estimated 20 to 25,000 criminal cases.
Wow.
We also, in addition to filing criminal cases, are charged with responsibilities to protect both the environment and protect consumers. So we regularly review cases where businesses have engaged in unscrupulous practices, or a business or an individual has in some way damaged the environment through perhaps the use of toxic chemicals or something of that sort. So we also pursue civil actions against certain types of offenders.
That's interesting. Now, you've been in office for 12 years, which seems like it's gone by quickly. I remember when you were elected, and it doesn't seem that long ago. I bet you've seen some pretty dramatic changes in terms of how you conduct your business.
We have, I think, the core principles that guide us have not changed. Our core principles are: we make no apologies. We're a tough, no-nonsense law enforcement agency, and we hold people accountable for crime. Another core philosophy is that we are vigilant. And as crime changes, we have to be able to change and respond to that crime. So right now, for example, we're seeing an explosion in computer crimes.
Right.
And we have we administer a high-tech task force that both investigates those cases as well as deals with the issue of evidence that is of technology nature, iPhones, home computers, things of that sort. Our third guiding philosophy is that we abhor bureaucracy. We have about 6,000 victims of crime that walk through our doors every year. They come from all walks of life, all socioeconomic and racial groups that are present in our community. And sometimes their parents have murdered children. Sometimes they're children who have been horribly victimized. We believe we have a responsibility to treat each one of those individuals with great dignity and respect and recognize the trauma that they have experienced. And then finally, our most important guiding principle is that we're an office of integrity. We employ people of the highest character who are committed to doing the right thing in cases. And so those core principles during my tenure have not changed. Those are the core principles we began my time with, and hopefully will go on long after I leave the office. But what has changed is we are creatures of the law as prosecutors, and the law changes.
Sure.
And right now, we've seen in the 1990s and the early 2000s kind of a get tough trend in criminal justice policy that comes out of the legislature, as well as initiatives that are on the ballot.
Right.
More recently, we're seeing kind of a flow in the other direction, a change in policy to more of a let them out of custody, reduce the size of prisons, reduce the size of jails, have more lenient dispositions. And so for prosecutors...
Right. Is that Proposition 47 was passed recently? Is that something that relates right to the...
Yes. Proposition 47, for your viewers who may not know, was recently approved by the electorate. It has three primary provisions that, from our standpoint, are bad. It was overwhelmingly opposed by most law enforcement organizations, from prosecutors to sheriffs to police chiefs. But it weakens criminal law in a fairly significant way that will impact our community. First of all, it takes drug possession cases, possession of heroin, possession of methamphetamine and cocaine, and reduces those crimes to misdemeanors from their previous status as felonies. Secondly, it takes a whole host of property crimes, from commercial burglaries to grand theft to receiving stolen property to petty theft, and makes them also misdemeanors if the value of the property was not more than $950. On their face, those two changes sound like, well, what's the big deal?
Right.
But in reality, many of the offenders that are charged with those crimes have long records, multiple commitments to prison, and represent a grave threat to the community. So from our perspective, those are bad changes that are going to impact us. The third component of Prop 47 is that it is retroactive in its application. So for individuals who have already been sentenced to prison,
released, or
yes, they are applying in record numbers for release and for other kinds of relief that the initiative authorizes. Now, I'm not here to say the sky is falling.
Right.
We don't like this initiative, but we're doing everything we can to protect the public and do our job to keep them safe. But we're challenged with this most recent change in the law.
It's interesting that you brought up that a lot of drug crimes are made misdemeanors rather than felonies, which means maybe no sentence or a shorter sentence. And my guess is that most crime is related to drugs and alcohol in some way. Is that right? Or at least a great percentage?
Yeah, it's estimated that 70 to 80% of all violent crime has some nexus to drugs and other types of substance abuse. So the change in the sentence for those offenses can be very large. A felony, the lowest level felony, typically carries a 3-year prison sentence. Misdemeanors on the high side can only carry a 1-year jail sentence. So it's a wholesale reduction in the consequences for crime.
Wow. Well, you mentioned technology, and I imagine that with cybercrime and the knowledge that criminals have, that's probably something that's a great challenge for your office, but also I'm sure there have been a lot of advances to your benefit with evidence or just the ability to manage data. Is that something that's really changed recently or is in a process of change?
Yeah, technology is one of those areas where it's just absolutely imperative that we remain vigilant because it is changing at such a rapid pace. We annually examine evidence in criminal cases that if you were to take the evidence and put it on an 8.5 sheet of paper and stack it up, it would stack several miles high.
Wow.
And we thankfully have very sophisticated software that allows us to go through that kind of data in a fairly efficient way. The other issue in terms of cybercrime that we're dealing with is child predators who really use the internet as a means of gaining access to children for criminal purposes. And so we are actively out on the internet, engaged in criminal investigations to try to stop those predators catch them before they harm children.
It's good to know that you're there to help us in that area. Do you have people in your office who are specifically involved in just cyber crimes or looking on the internet?
Training's vital. It's we have a number of both civilian staff and police officers, district attorney investigators, who are highly trained in the use of technology and in technology investigations.
Wow. Are there new challenges that you see? We talked about Proposition 47 and the perhaps effects from that you see in the future in your office that you think you'll need to be working to meet?
Yes. Crime by its nature is very dynamic, and it changes and morphs as new opportunities and new challenges present themselves. I think as we move forward, both computer technology and then forensic technology are going to be areas of great challenge and great opportunity for law enforcement. We're already seeing decades-old murder cases, decades-old rape cases that are being solved through the use of DNA technology, which has become incredibly sophisticated. And as a part of that, from our standpoint, as I mentioned, our role to do justice, DNA can also be used, it's a human system, and errors do occur from time to time. Fortunately, they're very rare, but prosecutors are committed to protecting the innocent. So when DNA evidence, for example, exonerates somebody, we're going to pursue that with great determination because we don't want innocent people prosecuted.
Right. Well, that's great. I visited your website recently for the district attorney's office, and I was amazed at how much information is there. And it looks like there are an awful lot of services that I wasn't aware of that businesses or members of the community can utilize in terms of seeking justice for a lot of issues. Is there anything that you'd like to share before we finish up? We just have a couple of minutes left in terms of how the public can get more information about your office.
Yes, well, our website is just DA Ventura County, and that'll get you there. And there is a tremendous amount of information for victims of crime, for businesses, and anybody who's interested in what we do. For those services, just some examples of things we do. For businesses, particularly small businesses that receive bad checks, we will provide essentially a debt collection service for you. California law authorizes to do that. We pay for that program by the fees we charge the bad check writer. It operates at no cost to the small business, and it's something that's been in place for more than 20 years, and it's something we're proud of. We also have a role to protect the fair marketplace. So for businesses who see perhaps a competitor engaged in unscrupulous activities that gives them an unfair advantage in the marketplace, they can report that to us, and in some cases we will be able to take action. For individuals who are engaged in some type of commercial transaction with a business as a consumer, we have a consumer mediation unit that will actually serve as a mediator for the consumer with the business to try to resolve the dispute. And then also we have a small claims advisor for people who have some dispute that winds up in small claims court. They can come to our office. We have people trained in small claims court law, and we will actually walk them through the process and try to help them make their case as strong a case as it can be.
What a great service. So there's so many things that your office does to protect and to serve the people in Ventura County. So thank you so much for your service.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here with us today. And we're out of time.
Thank you.
So our guest today has been Greg Totten, the District Attorney of Ventura County. And thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.